Good morning, welcome everybody, and welcome if you're watching this on replay as well. I know lots of people have told me that they've signed up and they're going to be watching on replay. Welcome to Grow Your Christmas Sales 2022. Just a couple of things before we get started, bit of housekeeping. It's always that moment at the beginning where I can't figure out how to make my slides move. Okay, so there is the chat. The chat is now enabled. Do please use it for having a chat with each other. It's always really good to see, I love to see people having a discussion. And often I find in these that you actually get people, hi Louise, hello. It's like a little bit of networking going on. So feel free to chat to other people, share your thoughts, your ideas, how you're feeling about Christmas. If you are in the chat, then make sure you've got the down arrow. You'll see next to where you type, it says everyone or it says hosts and panelists. So just make sure that you are selecting hosts and panelists. Sorry, please make sure that you're selecting everyone, not just hosts and panelists, and that way everyone can see what you're saying. Hopefully we've got Kate Scott with us today. Kate Scott is my fabulous membership assistant, who is, believe is on the webinar today. So if you've got any questions about the membership or anything like that, then do feel free to ask and she will be taking care of you guys. We've also got a Q&A section. So if you've got any questions as we're going along, then please put them into the Q&A. So chat for the chatting and questions into the Q&A, the questions that you'd like me to answer at the end. So the session is scheduled from 10 till 11:30. I usually talk for about 45 minutes and then we have lots of time for questions at the end. Obviously, I appreciate that's a lot of time for people to devote. So if you have to rush off, don't worry, this is all being recorded. You will be sent a replay over, usually as soon as the video is finished processing, so it's kind of in Zoom's hands. But sort of early afternoon, I would say you'll be getting it sent over to you. So if you have to leave, then don't worry about it. If you get interrupted, don't worry about it. Nobody can hear you, see you. So if you're in your pajamas, then crack on. But if you have to dash off, don't worry, you will get the replay. If you can't stay for the full hour and a half, then that's fine too. But I will be here, and usually, well, sometimes it's an hour and a half, sometimes it's a bit less, but basically I try and stay until all of the questions are answered if I possibly can. If we've got lots and lots of questions, then I may have to work through as many as I can. And then if you want to DM me afterwards on Instagram or something, I can always answer your question if we don't get through it today. But this is really an opportunity for you to ask questions. As I said, if you can put, all I ask is that please put them into the Q&A. It just helps us so that we're not trying to scroll through the chat. If you make a mistake and you accidentally put it in the chat, just copy paste it into the Q&A. That's absolutely fine. Just helps keep things organized. So we'll do questions at the end and go on from there. What else to say in housekeeping? If you're watching this on replay or live, then do please share on Instagram. We love to see where you are, where you're listening, and I'd always like to reshare and say hi as well. So again, thank you so much for your time. Just a very quick introduction. My name's Catherine Erdley. Jumped ahead. So why did I put this talk together? So I do these talks roughly about every 3 months or so. And really it's about what I try and do when I pull these talks together is I try and make it the summary of all of the conversations that I've been having with product businesses, whether that's my one-to-one clients or whether that's the membership group or whether it's in general chats on Instagram, in the DMs or on posts talking about what's going on right now. So these are kind of some of the big themes that were coming up when I was getting ready for this. So are you feeling overwhelmed by what's on the news? Seem to have lost your mojo, finding things tough right now, worry about doing something that you're doing something wrong, and you wanting to make the most out of Christmas. So I'd love to know in the chat what numbers sounds these drop off for the end, no problem. What sounds about right for you guys right now on the 1 to 5? And it's fine to say all of them if it's all of them. 1 and 3, yes, it is overwhelming, and I think that's all of them. So go share, yeah. 1 and 5, yep. 2 and 5, yes. All of them, yes. So it is really, I think, a lot of it is tough in terms of the small businesses, and I think also we get to this point where You know, when everyone starts panicking, it can be like a bit of a mass panic as well. So sometimes when we're in these small business spaces, it can feel like everyone's like, oh my goodness, this is, you know, just, it feels very negative. So I just want to recognize that and say, if you're feeling like that, then you are definitely not alone. I always like to add a little bit of who it's not for, and I'm sure this isn't I'm sure all of you by now know that there's no such thing as silver bullets. I'm going to share with you my best tips, thoughts, ideas about what's ahead and the best way to grow. But of course, if there was a single silver bullet to just say this is what you do and all your sales grow, then none of us would be here. And also just to mention again, if you're here, I'm guessing that you're the kind of small business owner that really cares about your customers and your products. I am going to mention the membership at the end. I know that we've got lots of members in here already, which is fantastic, but I am going to tell you about it, which is going to be about 5 minutes out of the hour and a half. So just to let you know that. So here we go. Now's my introduction. If you don't know me already, I know several of you follow me on Instagram. Maybe you're on my mailing list, lots of COD members already, but just to say, I'm Catherine Eardley. I'm a small business retail expert. This is my 22nd Christmas in the retail industry, and I've spent 17 years working for high street names, most recently Paperchase, which I left at the end of 2017. And if you want to talk about a Christmas focused business, it is definitely Paperchase. But since 2018, I've been working exclusively with startup and independent retailers and brands on their sales and profits. And I am very proud to be a Forbes contributor on the subject of starting and scaling a product business, which means that I get sent a lot of information and a lot of research about what's going on in the industry, which I really enjoy. Also means I get to do fun things like go and see the Etsy Christmas trends last week, which was brilliant. And I'm also proud to be a Small Business Britain champion, which means that I talk for them regularly on all things to do with product businesses, as well as Enterprise Nation naming me the top sales advisor last year. So I am very passionate about the retail industry, and I'm very passionate about helping the most exciting part of the retail industry, which is, of course, you guys. So what we're going to talk about today then, we're going to talk about Christmas 2022, what's ahead, and I'm going to share my top 5 tips to grow your Christmas sales. So diving straight in, what is in store for Christmas 2022? Well, when I pull these talks together, I spend a lot of time combing through all the various different stats, the information as to what's going on right now, and I like to put them together. And because as much as it is challenging right now, I think it's always better. I'm always a big believer in trying to state things exactly as they are, rather than trying to, well, sometimes it's just easier and clearer to like look at what's happening as opposed to what we get caught up in our feelings, and the way that we often feel when we open up the newspapers or read the news, or wherever you read or watch the news. So what do we know? Well, Christmas 2022, the recession has already begun. Last reports that I saw, they're now stating that the UK is officially in recession. The recession, I don't know if any of you caught my podcast last week, the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I did an episode all about the recession, but effectively that is a technical term that states that the GDP, the gross domestic product of the country, has declined for 2 consecutive quarters. So they're now at the point where they're saying, yeah, the 3rd quarter in the UK looks like, so that's the July, August, September time period, will have declined. So we are officially in a recession. Interest rates. You may well have seen the news this week about the pound dropping. Interest rates will effectively be rising in order to try and correct that. Inflation, last time it was measured was 14%. Cost of living concerns are hitting consumer confidence hard. And overall, but with all of that said, overall spend has declined, but we were talking about the August numbers, which are the most recent numbers I could find. Overall retail spend declined by 1.6%. So it can feel like nobody's buying, nobody's spending anything, but those are the numbers in terms of the top line. It was a minus 1.6%. Now, some of that is slightly offset by the fact that obviously prices are rising, so volumes have dropped. So people are buying fewer things, but their spending is down 1.6%. So just a couple of graphs. Really what I wanted to take away from these graphs, and again, I wish that this was a better picture to show, but again, I'm a big believer in showing exactly what's happening right now. because I think it's really important to understand all of these elements. It's just to understand that when you think about last Christmas, I always say to people, you know, last Christmas is your starter point, especially if this isn't your first year in business. You want to be looking back at last year's Christmas as your starting point. But I just want to make the point that we're in a very different place than we were at last year. So you can see this is the consumer confidence graph. So consumer confidence is effectively, they survey consumers every month, and they ask them how they feel about the likelihood of the economy improving in the next 12 months. So how confident they're feeling. Last year, you can see that it wasn't great, but it wasn't, you know, as low as it is now. So this is -44, which I believe this is the August number. As I said, they're always a delay with releasing the numbers. But effectively it's about as low as it's been. So I think they said that this is about as low as it's been historically. And then equally speaking, we have got inflation. So again, last year when we were looking at inflation, at this time, it kind of hadn't really seeped into people's consciousness, I don't think, entirely, or it started to, but wasn't to the point that it's at now. Whereas, so last Christmas, it was at around 3%, and now we're at, well, this actually, the September number I saw was higher again. So basically, we are in a different situation now than we were at last Christmas. So I think it's worth keeping that in mind. I know keeping it in mind, but not having it front of mind at all times, if that makes sense. It's just being aware of it. The other thing that's interesting is if you've seen one of my talks before, you may have seen this graph before. So this is the internet sales as a percentage of total retail sales. It's a really interesting graph because it tells a lot of stories about what's been happening with the pandemic. You can see nice, smooth, even trend, always a peak at Christmas, actually. Always a peak with Christmas selling to be more online than in stores each year. But you can see that this is the pandemic, it shot up, then it came down, and then it actually decreased. So the stats that I saw said that the e-commerce sales overall top line had decreased month on month for 10 consecutive months, showing that there is a move back towards physical in-person purchasing. And again, that's just worthwhile having that in mind. Now, this doesn't mean if you've got an online only business it's going to be catastrophic, but it's just thinking about all of these numbers. They're all indicative of wider patterns of consumer behavior, so it's always worth thinking about them and thinking about what that means for your business. And we'll come on to that in a bit more later. And so we can still see though that we are ahead of where we were pre-pandemic. So, but what's happening is that for a long time it was said, and I was saying it too, to be honest, that we'd moved forward about 3 years in terms of e-commerce, but actually it's almost like a course correction. It almost looks like we're going to be able to draw this line here, and the pandemic's going to kind of just be this anomaly. So it is above 2019, but it's below 2020 and 2021. It will also rise up slightly at Christmas. There's always a bit of a Christmas peak in terms of online purchasing. Okay, so what does all of that mean? So I put this next slide in because when I was preparing this talk, and when I was going through it, I was like, oh, this is really like it's not the message that I really want to take away from this, because I wanted this to be an opportunity to understand exactly what's going on without the kind of hype, just looking at the pure numbers. But I also wanted it to be, and for reasons I'm going to explain shortly, I wanted it to not feel like everyone should just go stick their head in a bunker and that's it. You know, I wanted to point out to you where the opportunities are. So that is my first thing. Totally panicking. Yes, of course. It is depressing. Yes, lots of people saying it's depressing. Totally. Okay, and yes, don't panic. I think this always goes back to, and I may have shared this story with some of you before, that when I was having my daughter, she basically during the birth we discovered that she was undiagnosed breech, which was a big surprise. And I think I said this during the pandemic as well, but it was this moment where the midwife says to me, the calmer you stay, the better this is going to go. And I just kind of went, okay, well, what do we need to do? And it was all fine, and everything else. So I think that's one of those things. It's like, it does feel very difficult, but The most important thing to do, almost like the most important factor to your business success for Christmas is you not panicking. So if you can kind of start with that to say, right, don't panic. Okay, I just need to not panic. What can I do? So it's putting aside the factors that are out of your control, acknowledging them, but then looking very much at the ones that you can control. So she says, moving on, avoiding the mind gremlins, as I call them, because there are a lot of them around, like no one's going to buy anything. So there's a lot of black and white thinking. No one will buy anything. Nobody wants anything from me. I'm actually, causing problems by selling my products, and I'm causing people to get into worse difficulties than they're already in. These are all of some of the things that people have said to me, either in the club as club members or in the DMs or one-to-one. So it's a lot of times our brains that receive this news, and also just to say as well, if a lot of the time the headlines, I mean, obviously they are factual, but they're designed to catch your attention. So they're designed to be alarming. So they're always going to pull the most alarming elements out. And sometimes, and I think there's absolutely nothing wrong in sometimes just saying, right, I need to just step away from that bit. I need to manage what I'm consuming, as it were. People are still buying. I was at, in a Westfield, Stratford recently. It was rammed. There are a lot of people out and about. There are a lot of people purchasing. There are a lot of people still spending. And what we're dealing with here, yes, we're in a recession, but these are not new factors. The one thing I will say about that is I put this together. I was doing my research and working on this predominantly last week. And then, of course, this week we've had the pound dropping. So, okay, that is a new factor. But a lot of these elements that we've been dealing with in terms of people's purchasing, the way that people are feeling about things, that's been going on for months now. We've been dealing with this all year. So although it feels very frightening, when we look at Christmas, actually, as I said, the recession is a technical term, and all of the factors that have been leading into this are factors that we've been dealing with the whole year. It doesn't mean that people won't be more likely to buy at Christmas, because they just simply are. People have been, even if they've been super cautious all year, they will have been putting money aside, or they may simply just, there's this idea of austerity fatigue, where at certain points people are just like, do you know what, I just really want to have a nice Christmas. I want to get a nice gift for my loved ones. So it's not going to change people's overall behavior at Christmas. It's going to make them more cautious and more aware of their spending, but only in the same way that we've been dealing with all year long. You need to show up, because if you think about it, if you think about the big multi-million pound retailers, I can promise you right now, none of them are sitting there going, do you know what, maybe people don't need to hear from us. Maybe people buying from us is not what they need when bills are going up. They are sitting there planning their Christmas marketing and how they can stand out. And because they know that if you retreat at a time like this, it's just, that is almost, as I said, the single most damaging thing that you can do for your business is to decide that it's not worth showing up. You do need to keep experimenting, you do need to keep learning, you do need to keep having that growth mindset, which is incredibly important for small businesses. That isn't easy when you feel like you've been, like a lot of you were saying, like panicking, worry, concern. But you absolutely need to keep doing what you can to keep experimenting and learning. But absolutely said the single most difficult thing, the most harmful thing that you can do for your business is to believe that there's nothing that you can do. I feel like that sounds like a riddle, but hopefully you get what I mean. Here are a few graphs as well, some nicer graphs. Because again, it's really tempting when you look at all of those, you go, right, well, that's it. No one's going to buy anything. So this is compared to last year, how much you're planning on spending on Christmas shopping and celebrations in 2022. This was Statista.com survey of over 2,000 consumers. 6% significantly more, 20% slightly more, 39% the same, 20% slightly less, 10% significantly less. So 2/3 of the people are thinking it's going to be the same or significantly more. So think about that. Think about your customers. Over 2/3 of them are going to be spending the same or more than last year, based on current consumer sentiment. I mean, I often know for small businesses, we feel like, well, it's just going to be like everyone's going to say I'm spending significantly less, but you can see that actually for a lot of people that is not the case. the other figure that I wanted to share with you comes from Small Business Britain and some research that they conducted with American Express. So they said 51% of people were supporting small businesses more since than before the pandemic, and almost half, 49%, feel more positive towards small businesses. I think right now, if I had the choice between being in a kind of middle market retailer that didn't really have much, might have obviously, the capacity to create marketing campaigns, but didn't have the emotional connection with their customers, or a small business that did, I definitely feel like I'd pick the small business, because that is what people really want. And that consumers have taken it upon themselves that if they buy from a small business, a particularly local business, that says something good about them. And when people believe something good about themselves, then they're much more likely to do it. So the other thing, again, it's like, well, I can't. Another thing people have said to me, well, if it's a recession, then how can I grow my business? So this is what I would say to that. There was a recession in 2020. So there were 2 consecutive quarters in 2020 because of lockdown, the GDP declined. Many of us saw great upturns in our business during the pandemic. Not everybody, I totally accept that. But what I'm saying is that if we get into this black and white thinking that a recession equals no growth, then we have to cast our minds back to 2020 and say, well, look, whether or not you yourself personally experienced a great growth, then lots of people did. So it's not the same thing. Recession does not mean that's it, game over. A recession means there are a different set of challenging circumstances, and we have to think really carefully about what we're doing as a business owner to help give ourselves the best chance. We've got to keep looking for opportunities. So just to say, in terms of how could you grow during a recession, growing your market share, increasing your sales channels, for example, trying new ones. If in the same way that people who had physical stores leaned much more heavily into their digital presence during the pandemic, people with digital presence, you can start thinking about perhaps, is it work for you to lean more into a physical strategy, whether that's wholesale or pop-ups or markets or events. You could benefit from the growing sentiment towards smaller businesses, and that could help you grow. And you yourself could improve as a business owner in terms of your strategy, your product, your marketing. All of those things could lead to sales growth. So you just have to believe it's possible and that it is happening. So I do work with people one-to-one, and there are people in the club for sure who are continuing to see good sales, who are seeing sales growth. It is not the same thing. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's not challenging. I just want you to believe that it's possible and that it can happen, and to start your Christmas plans with that in mind, as opposed to, oh my goodness, this is it. We're just nothing, no one's going to buy anything. And frankly, if I put something out there to people, then I'm just annoying them or encouraging them to spend money they don't have. There's lots I could say on that subject, but I just want you to keep that in mind, that the best thing that you can do for your business, that's why I put it as point number 1, is to not panic and to think about the possibilities. Go. All right. The world needs you. A little jazzy slide for you. Hopefully gets the message across. I don't know about you, but I think this looks like a fabulous party. People are still buying, so let them buy from you. Don't make their decision for them. Don't make your customers' decision that they can't buy from you because you're not there, because you're not promoting your products. They don't. Who wouldn't rather get a present from a fabulous small business than a set of bath bombs from M&S? Nothing wrong with M&S, nothing wrong with M&S bath bombs, but let's face it, small businesses are generally speaking more conscious. They're thinking about their impact, whether it's socially, environmentally, both. They're thinking about the where their products come from, how they're made. You are no doubt excellent customer service people for your business, because most small businesses I know run themselves ragged looking after their customers. So you know that you're going to give them an amazing experience, that they're going to buy something fabulous from you. The world needs more fun, fabulous products, so make sure you're offering them. Okay. that is if you take nothing else away from today, take away, don't panic. Okay, so number 2 is have a plan. So this is about recognizing that your best chance you've got for your sales growth is to make sure that you have thought about. some of the following elements: your key tasks, the peak times that you're likely to be seeing sales. I suggest setting your sales goal, and I suggest creating a promotional strategy. We go into this in a lot more detail on the club. We do have a course all about, we have a whole section with various different resources about Christmas planning. We have a Christmas planning session coming up next week as well. But again, just bringing it back to what can you do now in terms of your thinking. If you say, okay, I'm just going to put that concern and worry, and I'm not saying it's not valid, but I'm just saying that it's not helpful when you're trying to put a plan together. Can you put it to one side and think, right, let's start here and let's have a plan. Let's think about what I need to do. I suggest you look at the whole 13 weeks of the fourth quarter in one go, and you think about, where are my peak points going to be? Where are my bottlenecks going to be? Thank you, Royal Mail, for all of the strikes coming up. So what can you do to work around that? Do you need to work backwards on some of your last order dates? What can you do basically now to really think through all of the key tasks that you've got coming up ready for your peak times? Setting your sales goal. Now, everything that I've just said, if I was setting a sales goal for a multi-million-pound business this year, which for 17 years was my task, was setting multi-million-pound sales goals, this would not be the year that I was bullish. I would be like, okay, you know what, there's a lot of unknown factors. So especially when it comes to the level to which you're recruiting, the level to which you're buying stock, I would be coming up with what I think is a sensible plan. I don't think that we're going to see, I think overall Christmas is going to be reasonably flat to last year. If you've been trading up all year, if you've this year to date been trading 100% up, and you want to plan your Christmas to follow suit, then, you know, go for it. I'm not going to hold you back. But I think if you're at a point where you've got to choose between, I'm really going to go for it, I'm going to assume like massive sales this year, I would go with a more conservative estimate for your Christmas sales this year to avoid overcommitting to, say, some of your other costs. That would be my thought. But have a plan anyway. Have an idea of what you want to do. Think about when you think those sales are going to come. And then there's always a debate every year about, is Christmas going to be early or late? And there was some talk about people trying to spread the cost and starting to pick up a few bits and pieces early. I don't know how much we've necessarily seen. I'd be interested to know if anyone's seen that themselves in their business. They feel like people are shopping Christmas early. I think it probably will come. Well, everyone felt it came late last year, but it actually came fairly typically. It's just that in 2020 it came earlier, if that makes sense. So I don't necessarily know that I feel like it's going to be super early. But set yourself a goal, have a look at it, have a think about it, and make sure you create your promotional strategy as well. So thinking about, in that 13-week period, when do you want to offer free shipping, for example? When I say promotional strategy, a promotion does not have to be a discount at all. There's lots of different ways. A promotion is just another opportunity for you to have a talk with your customer. So it could be free shipping, it could be gift with purchase, it could be a multi-buy offer, it could be an exclusive Christmas gift, lots of different things. But think about it so you've got a nice flow throughout the season. Okay, number 3 is know your heroes. So when in doubt in a product business, go back to your product always. Is it what is going to be driving your sales? So your hero products for Christmas are really important, because statistically, and I've checked this and it's definitely true even for small businesses, you're most likely to be getting 80% of your Christmas sales from around 20% of your range. And so that means that every business has its heroes. Every business has products that perform way better than some of the other products. If you are somebody who has a lot of one-offs, so if you have vintage or secondhand or other different types of products where you can't say, oh, it's, you know, the blue candle that always sells loads, have a look at the categories, because it will be earrings that drive 80% of your sales, or necklaces, or however it works out. So have a look at those. But think now, before you get too deep into your planning, think now about what you believe are going to drive sales. It doesn't have to be Christmas. It could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And by Christmas, I mean snowmen, Father Christmas, Christmas trees. It could be whatever your bestseller is the rest of the year. If your bestseller most of the year is a pair of silver hoop earrings, chances are your bestseller at Christmas will be a pair of silver hoop earrings, as long as it's giftable. So you're looking for those items that are giftable, that people will purchase for others. So in clothing, for example, the giftable items tend to be things like scarves and jumpers. People don't tend to buy, say, dresses or trousers for each other as Christmas gifts unless they really, really know somebody well. Things that you could reasonably expect that someone could pick up as a gift. It could be a variety of price points. In fact, you may also want to think about your heroes at different price points. And by different price points, I would say that Christmas purchasing falls into some distinct categories, and it's worth thinking, depending on the breadth of your range, do you cover everything? So you have got the stocking stuffer, which is usually around £5 to £10. You have the Secret Santa gift, which is usually around sort of £5, well, it depends on the budget, but somewhere between £5 and £15. You've got the kind of gifting sweet spot, that between 20 and 30 that a lot of people will spend on that on. That's just a typical amount spent for a gift. Plus you've also got the special gifting, or the close family member or the partner or the child, that is more like could be, that one almost doesn't have a top limit. That could be 50, 75, 95. Some people spend hundreds of pounds on their loved ones at Christmas. But whatever the price point, it really needs to be special. So a £5 bar of chocolate could be very special, for example. But you want to think about both where you might have gaps in your range. So, for example, do you cover all the price points, yes or no? But within each one, you can think about what do you think are actually going to be the products that people most want from you this year, and then lean into those. So retail is often a game of probability. What is probably going to be the thing that people are most likely to buy from you? And at this time of year, it's going to be gifting. So lean into your most giftable items, the ones that you believe are going to be your Christmas bestsellers, and then you build everything around them. That is what's on your homepage. That's what you feature in your social media. Now, not to say you can't feature everything, but you almost kind of want to build the campaign around these, because these are going to be the gifting item that, again, as I said, it's a chance of probabilities. When you're communicating with your customer, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to put in front of them the thing you think they're most likely to buy. And so therefore, having the time to think it through and think about what your heroes are is really important. Number 4, pre-prepare. Now this goes in hand with the planning piece, because having a strategy is really important. Once you've got that strategy, you know what you want to do. Once you've put together your promotional plan, then you want to start thinking about what's going to be in your feed posts or your reels, or if you're on TikTok, what content are you going to be creating, or on Facebook, what are you going to pin for Pinterest, your emails. You can probably pre-write, if you sat down now and planned out what you're going to talk about each week in the run up to Christmas, you could probably pre-write a lot of your emails. Why not do it? You'd be so happy that you did when you finally get around, when it gets to that week and you're like, oh, I can just send out that email that I did. Big businesses, they sign off their Christmas campaigns like months in advance, to the point at which it's too restrictive. Like if something happens, then you're like, oh well, actually we can't talk about it because it was signed off. I mean, I've literally had arguments with people where they were like, well, we signed this off 6 months ago, and you're like, literally, where's the reactivity? So there's lots and lots that you can pre-prepare, because as much as possible you want to be moving this stuff out of the real peak selling period. So that's 6 weeks in the run up to Christmas. Those 6 weeks are known as the golden weeks in retail, and it's not unheard of for product businesses to be getting over 50% of their annual sales in those 6 weeks. So you don't want to be doing anything in those 6 weeks other than showing up, selling, delighting your customers. So what can you pre-prepare and move out of that time period so that you can be engaging with people when they are buying, in the buying mood? Let's face it, lots of people have not been in the buying mood this year. They're going to be in the buying mood at Christmas. You want to be around for that. And then point number 5, as always, you have to be bringing it back to your customer. Again, it's just really a lot of the time it's remembering the fundamentals at times like this. But the better job that you do of figuring out what your customer wants and then showing it to them, then the better job you'll be doing of driving your sales. So tune into what your customers want. If you haven't talked to them recently, try and have a conversation with them. Just try and get into the habit of always checking in and seeing what they're thinking about. half the time we tend to build businesses that really are serving people like ourselves. So for you to think about what your customer's thinking about, it's not going to be any great leap for you because it's probably what you're thinking about. So a great exercise that I do love is for you to write, take a notebook, spend 10 minutes, write a first person piece as your customer. So it says, you know, and you basically just put yourself in their shoes. I really, you know, this is the first Christmas we're having together as a family in 3 years because of the pandemic. I really want to make it special. But you know, I'm thinking about my budget. I'm going to have to be super careful with my planning, like whatever it is. Sit down, write a page, first person as your customer, and really help you tune into what is it that they want and what kind of messaging is going to resonate with them. When I was at the Etsy trend last week, they were talking about this idea of dopamine gifting. So I don't know if you've seen this whole thing about dopamine fashion, where people want kind of bright colors and fun stuff and something against the doom and gloom. And they were talking about this idea kind of rolling into Christmas. So dopamine gifting. So people wanting to have, like bright, fun, cheerful gifts that make them feel good, that make their recipient feel good. And, you know, so like whether it's fun slogans, or they were talking about like disco ball gifting was something that was really, you know, popular this year, but just about like that fun element, because we all need a bit of fun. We all need something that's going to cheer us up. And especially at Christmas, people are really conscious of the fact that we've had a couple of Christmases now, which were, well, 2020 was completely written off, and 2021, a lot of people were very sort of, you know, it was pared back or uncertain, or lots of people getting COVID just before Christmas, that kind of thing. So lots of people are thinking, right, they want to make this special and different. Special is always a word that comes up at Christmas. When we look at Christmas trends, we look at what people want to buy. They always want it to be special or magical. And ever since the pandemic, it's been like that has been even heightened. So people really want that idea of having special times with their loved ones. And that goes for a variety of price points. Just because somebody's on a budget doesn't mean they want a boring gift or a gift that isn't special and different. So thinking about those different price points. And then I really want to emphasize the fact that I think a lot of small businesses miss that top end. So lots of people, for example, will be doing Secret Santa this year, maybe with their families, where they, instead of buying lots of presents for lots of different adults, they're going to get together and buy one higher priced item for more people. Same with sort of companies maybe clubbing together to buy somebody a gift. Or equally, you could have someone who last year would have spent 150, this year they're spending 95. So there is definitely that top end level of gifting. A lot of small businesses feel nervous about offering, but there will be people who will leave your website if they can't spend enough money. People are time poor. They're always time poor at Christmas. They're very busy. They just want they want a round peg to fit in a round hole. If they want to spend £75 on a lovely gift to their loved ones, that's what they want to do. They don't want to go and think about, okay, well, I could buy them this and I could buy them that, and I could then get a box and combine it and put it together. They just want to see something, they want to purchase it. So if you had to go away and manufacture a higher priced item, I would be cautious about that. But if you've got, for example, the opportunity to put multiple items together and put together a higher price point gift option, I would try it. I would definitely try it. I've had this conversation with several people and they've tried it and they've seen people buying from it. It also just makes your life more efficient as well, because the more you can drive up your average transaction value, the more you can, you know, for every gift, every time you have to go to the post office or pack something up, then you're getting more for your money. Sharing your story as well. This is really a key thing. I just want to emphasize this as well. Comes back to this idea of people do see buying from independent small businesses as a real positive, a real plus for themselves. So I want you to really think about how you can share that story, because the more you can share a story with your customer, the more they can gift that story. Because one of the great things, the reason people love buying from small businesses, is that they don't just say, you know, oh, I bought this pair of earrings from Accessorize, for example, here you go. But they might say, oh, I bought this pair of earrings from this lady and she started creating them in lockdown because she was furloughed. and now she makes them from her home, and blah blah blah. Like, there's a story, and many of you have got fascinating stories behind your business, fascinating stories behind the products that you sell. Share those stories with your customers, because then they can share them with the recipients, and it adds that extra layer of sort of emotion to the gifting that big businesses just can't do, to be honest. And then the other point that I just wanted to make as well, and when I'm talking about customers, is look after your loyal customers. Make sure you speak to them. Make sure you have a strategy, even a separate strategy for your VIPs. Your email subscribers are your VIPs a lot of the time, because they like you enough to give you their email address, or they've already bought from you. So speak to the warm part of your funnel. If you think about the cold part of your funnel, is the people who've never heard of you before. They are understanding, they're just figuring out who you are. It's like, they say, if you're at a party and instead of talking to the people who are at the party, you spend your whole time outside trying to get more people to come into the party. So this is the time for you to go into the party and talk to the people who are already there. Think about a special strategy for them. Again, going back to stats, research suggests that the top 8% of your customers will most likely generate 40% of your sales. So make sure at Christmas you talk to them, you think about them. Big businesses that I've worked for, we would always have a strategy on what extra is in it for the email list. So if we were doing a sale, they'd get an early preview. If we were doing a discount code, they'd get an extra day. If we were doing a product launch, they would see it first. All of these things, they really got the impression that they were our VIPs. And also then you got a chance to talk about your email list on social media and say, hey guys, make sure you get, make sure you sign up for an email list. We're going to have, they're going to get 3 days of this code, and I'm going to, everyone else gets 2. So do you want an extra day? We want early shopping? Join the email list. And then again, it's like a way of capturing people, because this is where the profit lies so many times in product businesses and businesses in general, is with your existing customers. Getting new customers is expensive, it's time consuming, but selling to your existing customers is one of the easiest ways of people who already love you. They know your products, they know that they're great, so make sure they're thinking about you when it comes to their Christmas spending. So in conclusion then, these are my top tips. Stay positive, don't panic, create your strategy, pre-prepare, so do as much as you can ahead of time, choose your hero products, focus in on your customers, and basically focus on what you can control. I think that's the real key here. Focus on what you can control as part of for your business, because ultimately you can't control what's going on around you, but you can control whether or not you believe that people will still want to buy from you this Christmas, and I believe they will. And as we saw in the stats, 51% of people want to spend more with small businesses after the pandemic. So think about those guys, think about selling to them, and think about how you can help them have a great Christmas, because they'll feel so good about all of the wonderful things, and they'll be the heroes in their family because they got the best gifts. So help your customer be a hero to their families. And this is the point at which I'd love to invite you to join the Resilient Retail Club. As I said, we are a community of around 350 product businesses. I'm very proud of the club. We've been running it now for over 2 years, and I believe that we really, hopefully the members agree with this, really look after our members as well. In terms of joining us now, if you want to come and join, you can join for £1 for your trial month. I believe the best person to decide whether or not the club is right for you is you, so we'd love to have you come and join. I believe Kate's on the chat, and I believe she's going to put the link in there too. So what you get in terms of what you get for the club, you get the membership, the private Facebook group that we are in. Kate and myself are both in there every day, Monday to Friday, so we are available to answer questions, cheer you on. We have a weekly wins thread. We've just had a quarterly wins thread, which has been amazing, with just to share what people have done each quarter. We also have an accountability on a Monday, so what you're going to commit to. We've got a lot of live sessions coming up. So in the run up to Christmas, I do an Ask Me Anything every week. That means you've got the opportunity to ask a question, and I will answer it on camera. And we do those once a week in the run up to Christmas. We also have a planning session. We also have each month, so we get together and we go through looking at what the month last month was like and what the plan is for the month ahead, and you get the chance to have a chat with the people. We are actually going to have a live in-person event in London in November, which I'm very excited about, and club members, I will be telling you all about that tomorrow. I finally finalised it, which is very exciting. This will be the first time I've done an in-person event since starting the club in June of 2020. We've also got a library of courses, and they cover all kinds of different things. They've got a wholesale course if you've been thinking about wholesale, we've got email marketing, we've got grow your sales, grow your profits, start your business if you're at earlier stage, pricing your products, as well as so many other workshops. We have a monthly workshop as well with an expert, and we've covered the legal stuff like in intellectual property. We've covered TikTok and Pinterest and taking photos of better product photos. We've got blogging for small businesses coming up. We've got Google ads for small businesses coming up as a workshop. So one workshop a month, 2 Ask Me Anythings, but even more at Christmas, plus the planning session. So that's your 4 live events a month or even more. And we also have bonus support at Christmas. We've got a whole section which is a whole load of resources about Christmas promotions, getting ready for Christmas. We've had Christmas PR chats from Rosie Davis-Smith from PR Dispatch, and so much more. And you can have all of that for £1 for your first month, and then it's £32 a month afterwards. And during Christmas, we've got the weekly check-ins, a Christmas planning session next week, the supportive community to help you stop panicking, to help you stay positive. And then we've also got a week-by-week planner and event guide. So the week-by-week PDF starts from next week, and each week it gives you prompts to say what you're going to do for the week, what your goal is for the week, and as well as some ideas about the things that we talked about, like the pre-prep. And of course, there's no minimum sign up. You can go month to month, no questions asked, easy cancellation. Hopefully everyone will agree, the members will agree that Kate and I are very nice, and we always say to people, you are welcome to come and stay for as long as you like, and we hope you stay. And if you leave, we hope you come back and join us later. It's no pressure. I don't make you sign up for a year or anything like that. Okay, and there you go. Now on to, just to say as well, if anybody's in terms of strategy, I do also work with people. I've got a new offering I've created for this year, which is all about creating your Christmas strategy. It's something that we do together. It's a one-to-one service as well. So if you're interested in that, you can drop me an email, Catherine@resilientretailclub.com, and I can tell you more about it, or it's on my website under my one-to-one section, Work With Me. Okay, and that is it. So let us go to the questions. Okay. Rosie says, yesterday I saw that Royal Mail have tons of strikes throughout November, which is inevitably going to have a huge impact on parcels being delivered in good time. I've always offered free UK first class signed for delivery, but am tempted to charge £3 for special delivery as the only UK option throughout November, December. This would lose me about £1 per order, of an average order value of about £140, but I do think to eliminate the stress of it all for both sides, it might be worth it. Do you think it is a good idea? Do you think that this is the best way, or should I offer special delivery for free and take a bigger hit? Okay, so I know that this is particularly frustrating this year with the strikes. We did, and it's like another level, but we did, I guess, have a certain level of disruption last year. If you remember, there were a lot of issues, like, we had all the fuel stuff going on, and there were a lot of delivery issues in November, December last year, and in 2020 as well, actually. And I think a lot of it comes down to communications. So a lot of it comes down to you being really, really clear with people. Maybe you have to put in like a worst case scenario in terms of what you think in terms of deliveries. I often think as well, with this ability to like speed up your delivery, it's always good to offer it, but you don't always have to offer it for free. So for example, one year I was buying a Christmas tree skirt, and I had to message the person and ask them, there wasn't an option for me to buy express delivery. I had to email them and I had to ask them if I could pay them more to pay them to get express delivery. So I think it's always good to offer it as an option, but you don't always have to offer it for free. If you, to be honest, Rosie, with your price point at £140 average order value, I possibly would say just do it, because it's only an extra £1 and it will save you stress. But I think for everyone else who's watching, especially if your order value is lower and you're thinking, I just can't absorb that, you don't have to absorb it. You can offer it as an option, but you can ask them to pay for it. And I think people just appreciate having the option rather than having to do what I did, which was email them separately, wait for them to get back to me. If I hadn't wanted this particular tree skirt, I probably would have gone somewhere else, just where I could even immediately see that it was an option to upgrade to the shipping. Just don't forget how time poor people are at Christmas. They're really like, it's got to be there. They're not going to email you and wait for an answer back if they're just like, oh, it's nearly not my cup of coffee ever. You know, if they feel like, okay, I'm not going to I'm not going to wait around for an answer. So all of that to say, yes to express options. No, you don't always have to charge for it, but probably, Rosie, in your case, I would. And also just think about if there's an option of like getting people on the mailing list. You know, could it be, oh, actually, did you know that our email subscribers get a free upgrade to express shipping? And then basically that could just be a mechanism. Like, what could you get out of it if you are going to do something like that for your customers? How could it benefit you? I hope that makes sense. Okay. It's great to know that Christmas might pick up, but what happens afterwards? How can we make sure the cash will be there for the year if the tendency will still be downwards after Christmas? Okay, that is a great question. And I think that there's definitely a lot of value in thinking about Christmas, not as the finish line, but more like the starting pistol for 2023. So I think a lot of the time it is about making sure that you do capture those people, because if it continues, obviously it's looking like 2023 is going to be challenging. So then leaning into your warmest customers is going to be really useful all the way through 2023 as well. So I would think about trying to get people's email addresses in any which way you can. If you're selling in a physical space, at an event, you definitely 100% want a strategy of how do you get people's email addresses. Is it a prize draw? Is it just simply asking them? Like, what is it that means that you can get their email addresses? Because you want those Christmas sales when you've got most eyes on the business, you've got most traffic to your websites, you want them to be helping you drive going forward. And part of that is thinking less about a Christmas sale and more about acquiring a customer, if that makes sense. And a big part of that, to be honest, is great customer experience, just it being a really good experience buying from you, that all of your kind of communication's smooth and that they know what's happening. And even if there are delays because of Royal Mail strikes, you're keeping them updated, or you're really clear about when you think things will arrive, all stuff like that. That all in a way is part of making sure that your sales are there for 2023. Okay. Jill says, what is the typical time for Christmas sales peaks? Is that specific to each business? Very good question. So yes, basically a lot of people will find there are different peaks. It is slightly different for different businesses. If you are a physical store, probably your busiest day of the year is Christmas Eve. So it does go, the demand is there all the way up to Christmas Eve. And with online stores, in a way, it's you see it kind of, you have to cut off earlier, and some people have had to cut off like even earlier because of all the disruption and problems with delays, and just the fact you don't want to spend your Christmas day fielding questions about where people's packages are, that kind of thing. So it does depend. As I said, those 6 weeks typically are the 6 weeks before, in the run up to Christmas, are the peak weeks for most businesses. There are some nuances in between. So, for example, kids goes first. People tend to buy for kids first. It's one of the earliest, so if you are a brand that sells kids clothes or giftable kids items, then they are more likely to be shopping early than any other category. then you also have various different things. And a lot of the time, if you want to really kind of gauge it, think about your own life. So for example, Christmas decorations, the kind of bulk ones for decorating your tree tend to be purchased by the sort of first week in December, because that's when a lot of people put their trees up, maybe second week. But you see it really relate to when people are actually putting their trees up. If it's the kind of like personalized decoration that people would gift, that would go on selling for longer. Christmas cards, people tend to buy packs in November, maybe early December, but that will also be relevant to when the postal cutoff date is for sending cards. Whereas single cards that you would give to somebody on Christmas Day, those sales go on later. So there are quite a lot of different nuances. Christmas party purchasing often happens in November, maybe early December, because that's when a lot of people will have their parties. So that's anything sparkly. There's also this idea of the carving the turkey outfit, which people may purchase until later on, which is like the nice dress or nice outfit people want to wear on Christmas Day. Christmas jumper day is a key one, obviously, if you've got anything that could be worn for that. The sort of real sort of secret Santa type gifts, again, I don't know if I said that already, but that's usually sort of early December, because again, that's when people do their Christmas lunches. There's lots of different bits and pieces, you know, but it will change. It will depend on the business. It will Christmas food can go quite late as well, because sometimes people buy that just beforehand. Thinking about dressing the Christmas table can be quite up to the last minute as well. But basically, if it's a gift, it could go all the way up to Christmas Eve. As I said, in retail, in a physical store, Christmas Eve is often one of the busiest days. I also really suggest tracking it and looking back at your own sales data as well, because it may be different for different people. Also really important is the timing of that November payday, because often that is when people are like, okay, this is the date, this is the pay packet I'm going to use for my Christmas purchasing. So pay attention around that. Black Friday, you may see a sales dip in the run up to that, because whether or not you're participating, people might be waiting to see. I mean, who here would do full price Christmas shopping on the Tuesday before Black Friday, when you could just wait 3 or 4 days and it may be the same price, or it may be discounted, so you may wait and see. So you do sometimes see that dip just before. In fact, a lot of people feel that what Black Friday's really done is it's not increased sales overall, it's just pulled some of those December sales into November. So again, you may see, but then for some, anyway, no one's asked me about Black Friday, but so I won't go off onto my Black Friday discussion, but because that wasn't the question. But yeah, there's lots of different peaks, and I think it's well worth looking back at your own sales data as well and seeing if you can map out when you think they're going to be. Hattie says, I've been swithering about putting my prices up on my prints all year. Is this a terrible time to do it? I would say everybody's put their prices up. So your customer is not going to blink an eyelid, I would imagine, because most people have already done it. I don't think it's a terrible time to do it, because I think you have to think about your profitability. This is one of the highest sales times of the year. So if you want to, basically, if you want to not be, presumably you need to put them up because your costs have gone up. So if you don't put them up and you go through a high sales period, it may actually hit your bottom line because you're not selling them at the higher level. If they need to go up to cover your costs, increase costs, I would do it now. And as I said, I doubt very much people will really notice. You can tell people you're about to do it and see if you can get a flurry of last orders before you change it, or you could just change it. I think either approach is fine. How would you suggest promoting your business and products this year at the same time, still being sensitive to people's situations and pockets, says Emma. I think that really good selling is about making a connection with people and just telling them what you've got, and it's up to them if they buy it. So I would put it like that. I think if you've got a range of price points, then you can have conversations with people where you say, this is what I've got. You know, if you've got £15 to spend, this is what I have. If you've got 25, this is what I have. It's not the year to be coy about your prices. I think you, in as much as some people I know don't want to necessarily say how much things are, but I think people will have really clear budgets. They'll have spending limits. They'll have, I want to spend, you know, £15 on Auntie Sue and £10 on the 4 cousins or whatever it is. And so I think definitely talk about it. in terms of if you've got the, I think if you think about a gift guide you see in a magazine, they often have like treats under £10 or treats under £25. I think you can absolutely talk about what price category your products sit in, and that is effectively you're helping them understand that if they have got a budget. But I think also thinking about for each one of those items, I don't think you want to come at it from like we've got lots of, and I know nobody would, but you're not talking about it being cheap, you're talking about it being special, but in this price bracket, if that makes sense. So it can still be a really premium message to say we've got this, this and this at £25 or £15. It doesn't have to be like you're trying to talk about it being budget, because I know a lot of people have got very premium brands, they don't want to feel like that. So in terms of being sensitive to people's situations and pockets, so I think it's thinking about it from their perspective. Explaining what you've got at the different price points, and then it's up to them really, ultimately, if they purchase, and just helping them understand what they can get from you at this price point and how fabulous it is and how great it's going to be for their loved ones. I hope that answers the question. Rosalind says, my materials have gone up a lot this year. I haven't increased my prices yet this year, as I've been still using materials bought with last year's prices. I need to buy more materials now, so looking to put my prices up in mid-October. Is that a bad idea? So this goes back to the conversation that we've just had. I think you have to look at the bottom line. If you don't increase your prices and your costs have gone up, then you're going to, yes, you may be getting sales, but your profitability for Christmas is going to be lower, which is going to cause a pinch point later on. I was going to let my newsletter subscribers know so they have time to buy before my prices go up. I think that is a very valid choice. We've certainly been having this discussion in the club. Do you tell your customers or not? I think that it depends, and I think either approach is fine. Some people find really good results by telling people that prices will be increasing, and some people just prefer to make the change and see if anyone even notices, to be honest. But I think that's a perfectly valid way of doing it. If telling people, your newsletter subscribers, that the prices, the good thing is because it's such a widespread, what's been going on, so many different industries and people are experiencing this. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, what's she doing that for? Everybody gets it. So I definitely think that it's a message that people will understand. When do you expect last Christmas orders to be placed, and when do they expect them to be dispatched? So as I said, the demand for Christmas goes all the way up until Christmas Day. 24th of December. If you look at the Christmas gift guides, if you going back to that idea, you'll always see that on the 24th of December there'll be like this thing where it's like, get your gift for Christmas, and what can you still get, basically, and it's always like vouchers. So that's another good point. Several people will have a gift voucher option, so that if somebody has literally left it to the last minute, they could buy something from you and print it out and give it to their loved ones on the 25th. Typically though, now let me see, this year Christmas is a Sunday, so we've got a full week before Christmas, so I think a lot of people will still be ordering like in that week. Whether or not you can support that is entirely up to you. I do know lots of small businesses who cut off orders sooner, or they do something like they do last few days, like maybe the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but they offer a free upgrade to express shipping to capture those last few days of demand. They want them delivered by the 25th, basically. Well, actually, in this case, they're going to want them delivered probably by the 23rd, 24th. So that's the timeline everyone's working towards. So people, will be buying from Amazon Prime next day delivery on the 22nd, 23rd, no doubt. And then some people will be buying gift cards on the 24th, or last minute. As I said, physical shops often have a last minute rush on the 24th because everyone's like, oh my goodness, I've got to go get it. But as you as the business owner can make the decision when you cut that off. If you can keep it going, basically the longer you keep it going, the more sales I think you'll get. It's just that obviously it's what costs if you've then got, because of, especially with all the disruption in the postal service, most people prefer to cut it off a bit sooner rather than later. And if you've got personalized, you may have to cut it off way before that, because you may need the time to make things as well. Not Christmas, but we want to be organized. When do retail buyers start wanting to see Valentine's collections? Early Jan, just want to be organized after Christmas. Very interesting question. So Valentine's, so the big retailers have something called Snapback, which basically goes Christmas sale on Boxing Day, maybe a week of that, and then at one point it's like Christmas out, Valentine's in. So for a big retailer, their Valentine's would have been purchased like way back, probably in the spring of this year. Independent retailers, it just depends. They tend not to do the snapback in quite the same way, but it is pretty soon, and also it depends how organized they are. Some independent retailers will have seen Valentine's at the autumn shows. They will have, or you know, a lot of people who do those spring collections will have launched them in the autumn or even earlier. But a lot of them just don't have the headspace, especially if it's, you know, a lot of independent retailers are small businesses, so the person's got to get through Christmas, and then probably, yeah, first thing in January, first job in January is going to be Valentine's. So just like a lot, if you're doing wholesale, there's always like a big window. The big retailers want to see it months ago. The small retailers might be buying fairly close to need, but it just be, you know, from in the grand scheme of things, big retailers, they literally go Christmas, Valentine's. You see it all the time, don't you? They go like Valentine's, Easter, or Mother's Day, and it's just like a switch over one night. Okay, we are a made-to-order slow fashion brand, and we struggled a little this year, especially during the summer. We're aware people are going on holiday more and more summer saving for Christmas. Do we reckon we release smaller amounts of new products in more frequent drops, or would you reckon bigger drops but not so frequent? We are worried it might be too overwhelmed for customers if there's too much choice, but also want to keep the feed fresh and maintain that consistent interest in the new products. I think, yeah, I would go with the smaller amounts of new products in more frequent drops. I think newness is always a sales stimulator, because if you can talk about having a new product, then that isn't, like you say, it keeps it fresh, it keeps interest. One of the most visited pages on websites after the homepage is new in. People like to see what's new. And even if they don't buy that item, you'll often see a sales uplift on everything else because they go to the website to check it out. So yes, my suggestion would be more frequent drops of newness rather than big collections. It's also easier for you as well, because you don't have to get all that pressure onto those big launches. When I first started in the retail industry, which was the year 2000, I started working for Laura Ashley, and we did everything around 2 launches a year, because it's home furnishings as well, so it's different. And that would go from, you know, your spring summer launch and your autumn launch, and everything had to line up. The critical path had to line up. Everything had to line up for everything to arrive in the store at the same time, and it was a huge undertaking. But today's customer doesn't think like that. They like to see newness. They want to see things moving over, sort of ticking over. So I would say if it's workable to do more frequent drops of newness, I would definitely suggest it. Lisa says we have a physical shop and find it really difficult to get customers' emails. Even when we do manage to get them in the shop, they don't do the second click through once they've left the shop. Okay, I wonder if there's anything that you can do to incentivize it, Lisa. I don't know if you've tried incentivizing it before, but again, a lot of the time people have to we have to sell our email lists. So again, you can say, oh, well, actually, did you know that email list subscribers get early discount or early access, or email subscriber special evening in the store? And it may not be overnight, but I think if you always think about what can you do, if you're doing something, what could be extra for those email subscribers, and always market it as a very positive thing. A lot of us feel really awkward about getting people onto our email list. They're kind of like, oh, yeah, you know, I don't know, I feel like people often think, oh, it's or I feel apologetic about asking for emails, but actually if you can feel really good about selling it as a selling it as a bonus to be on your email list, can you think about it from that perspective and see if you can get people to sign up that way. And maybe you just need to say to them, just so you know, because we want to be GDPR compliant, you are going to get an email. You're just going to need to open it up and just make sure you do that second click. Yeah, and just see. I don't know if you can get how easy it is to see if people not ever click that second click, and if you see them again, can you just mention to them, oh, I just see you're not signed up on the email list, is there any chart, just you've got one, do you want to just check, blah blah blah, because sometimes you have to tell people what you want them to do, and if you make them aware that they're going to get an email and they've got to click on it in order to subscribe, they maybe don't even realize that, they maybe didn't even open it and they just didn't even see that they have to do an extra step. Hope that helps. Okay, Hannah says, I launched a month ago. Congratulations. I'm so consumed with marketing awareness, finding the people, that sales strategy hasn't even had a look in. I really want to make the best of Christmas, but I don't think putting a proper sales strategy in place in time is realistic for me. What 1 or 2 steps would you suggest making? I still think you can look, Hannah, at, I hear what you're saying, but get yourself a plan for the 13-week period for October, November, December, and just think to yourself each week, what are you talking about? And make sure it matches the kind of flow of Christmas. So, when are you going to talk about Christmas gifting? When are you going to talk about, are you going to be releasing new products in the run up to Christmas? What's your plan? So just making sure that, making sure that you're marketing, that you're very, I know exactly what you mean at the beginning, you're just literally trying to get your head around everything, but maybe just trying to put in some kind of plan that flows them through to Christmas. So, because the best marketing messages in the run up to Christmas are going to be Christmas focused. Just think about what you want to tell people, really, why your products are great for gifting, what makes them so special. Just really making sure, do you need to talk about the gift options that you've got? Do you offer that they can send direct to the recipient with a card and a note and all the rest of it? Lots of different things that you can talk about. So just make sure that what you're doing, those activities that you're doing at this time, they really tap into what your customers are going to be thinking about, which is Christmas gifting. Oops. So what's that? Done. All right. That was all the questions. Look at that. And it is 11:15. So if we stop this and you have a moment and you think, oh my goodness, I really should, I should have asked this question and I didn't. And as I said, I'm very friendly. Come see me on Resilient Retail Club and Instagram. Do share where you're watching. I always love to see it. If you want more, listen to my podcast, Resilient Retail Game Plan. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find it. Just search for it or search for my name, it should pop up. I think we're on episode 114 or something like that. So there's loads in there about planning and Christmas promotions and all the rest of it. As I said, if you're interested in having me help you build your Christmas strategy, then take a look on my website under my one-to-one work, or email Catherine@resilientretailclub.com and I can tell you more about it. Or keep an eye on my Instagram stories where I'll be talking about it. And if you want to join the club, if you're feeling wobbly and you just think, I just want to go for my positive, where I can get answers to my questions, I can talk to other people going through the same thing as me, as well as have access to templates and meetings to get more plans, to put our planning together, workshops that will be relevant for me and my business, then come join the Resilient Retail Club. We would love to have you, and wish you all the very best for Christmas. All right, I will be sending this replay around shortly, so keep an eye on your emails for that, and thank you so much for coming.